Welcome back to the Conversation Corner, the podcast where we talk about everything that helps you connect better, communicate more effectively, and understand each other a little more every day. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Tom. Today, we're going deep into what might be one of the most common yet most nerve-wracking questions you'll ever encounter. Tell me about yourself. It sounds simple, right? But when it comes to actually answering it, that's where the challenge begins.
That's so true. This question pops up everywhere, from job interviews, networking events, social gatherings, to even casual conversations. And yet, many people struggle with how to craft a response that's genuine, memorable, and impactful.
So in this episode, we're going to explore not just how to answer, but how to think about this question. We'll go through different strategies, share personal stories, and maybe even troubleshoot some common pitfalls.
Sounds great. Let's start with the basics. Tom, when someone asks you, tell me about yourself, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, honestly, I think about the context first. Is it a job interview, a social event, a first date? Because depending on where I am, I tailor my answer. For a formal setting, I focus on my professional background. For a casual meeting, I include hobbies and personal interests.
That's a good point. Context matters a lot, but no matter the situation, I think it's important to craft an answer that balances professionalism and personality, because at the end of the day, people want to connect with you, not just your resume.
Exactly. I've noticed that people tend to remember stories more than facts, so I usually try to incorporate some storytelling into my response, like sharing a moment that sparked my passion or a challenge I overcame.
I love that approach. Stories are memorable and humanize you. I remember in college, when I was interviewing for my first internship, I simply said, I've always been curious about how things work. When I was a kid, I disassembled my bicycle just to see how everything fit together. That curiosity grew into a love for engineering. It was a simple story, but really stuck with the interviewer.
That's a great example. It shows personality and passion in a short space. Speaking of structure, do you think it's better to have a prepared speech or just speak freely?
I think preparation helps, but authenticity is more important. I usually have a mental outline, a few key points I want to hit, but I try to keep it natural. The worst thing you can do is sound rehearsed or robotic.
Totally. Practice makes perfect, but just enough practice to be comfortable. When you rehearse too much, it sounds fake. When I prepare, I think about my core message, who I am professionally, what drives me, and what I enjoy outside of work.
Same here. And I think it's also about being honest and genuine. People can tell when you're not being authentic. If you're passionate about your work, or if you care about a hobby, share that with enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about some specific tips. For instance, I recommend starting with your name and current position or role, then quickly segue into important achievements or experiences that define you.
Right. And then maybe mention what excites you about what you do. For example, I might say, I'm Lisa, a digital marketing specialist. I love helping brands tell their stories through social media. And my favorite project was creating a campaign for a local nonprofit that increased their outreach by 40%.
That's awesome. And it also demonstrates your impact. Numbers and results help make your story concrete.
True. And after that, I like to include a bit about my interests or hobbies. It humanizes me. For example, in my free time, I enjoy hiking, cooking, and volunteering at animal shelters. It gives people something to connect over.
Yeah, sharing hobbies can often lead to natural conversations afterwards. It's a way to show that you have a well-rounded personality.
Now, Tom, how long do you think your answer should be? 2 minutes? 3?
2 to 3 minutes is a good rule of thumb. You want to be thorough but brief enough to leave room for questions or further conversation.
Exactly. You don't want to dominate the conversation. It's about creating a dialogue, not giving a monologue. After you share your story, it's natural for the other person to ask follow-up questions or for the conversation to flow into related topics.
And that's when your listening skills become just as important as your answer. Sometimes people ask, "Tell me about yourself," but they really want to get to know who you are, your values, your passions, what motivates you.
That's so true. So when you're answering, try to be genuine. Don't just give what you think the interviewer or host wants to hear. Be your authentic self. People can tell when you're not being authentic.
Absolutely. Another tip is to avoid overloading your answer with too many details. Focus on the highlights that tell your story best. If someone asks, "Tell me about yourself," they're probably not expecting your entire life story.
Right. It's about the essence of you. For instance, if you're a recent graduate, you might say, "I just finished my degree in environmental science, and I'm passionate about sustainability and conservation. During college, I volunteered for local cleanups, and I recently completed an internship with a renewable energy company."
Great. That highlights your background, your interests, and your experience, all in a compact way.
Now, what about times when people ask very open-ended questions like, "Tell me about yourself," in a social setting? In those situations, I think it's good to start with a brief overview, then add a personal touch, maybe sharing a funny or memorable story.
Yes, humor and personality really help. For example, you might say, "Well, I'm Lisa. I love hiking and trying out new recipes. Last weekend, I accidentally set my kitchen on fire while experimenting with a new dish. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but it's definitely a story I tell often now."
That's a great way to break the ice. It shows vulnerability and humor, which are very relatable.
You know, Lisa, I've also found that practicing your answer over and over helps build confidence, but it's equally important to stay flexible. Sometimes the conversation takes a different turn and you need to adapt.
Exactly. It's about being prepared, but not scripted. When I practice, I focus more on the key points I want to cover, rather than memorizing a script word for word. That way, I feel more relaxed and natural.
Do you think there are common mistakes people should avoid?
Oh, yes, plenty. For example, rambling on, sharing irrelevant details, or sounding disinterested. Also, avoid giving a completely rehearsed speech. It can come across as insincere.
And don't forget to stay positive. Even if you're talking about challenges or failures, frame them as learning experiences.
Absolutely. For example, instead of saying, "I struggled with public speaking," you might say, "I used to find public speaking challenging, but I have been actively working on my communication skills by taking on speaking engagements and practicing regularly."
That's a great mindset shift. It shows growth and resilience.
So, just to summarize, when someone asks, "Tell me about yourself," aim to craft a clear, authentic, and engaging narrative. Focus on your background, your passions, and what drives you. Keep it natural, practice enough to feel confident, but be ready to adapt to the flow of the conversation.
And remember, this isn't just about answering a question, it's about making a connection, showing who you are beneath the surface, and opening up space for genuine dialogue.
Well said, Tom. And for all our listeners, practice makes perfect. Take some time to write down your key points, rehearse, but stay true to yourself.
Before we wrap up, we want to encourage you to use this episode as a resource. Practice your Tell Me About Yourself spiel, whether for interviews, networking, or social events, and see how it transforms your confidence and interactions.
And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to the Conversation Corner, comment below with your experiences or questions, and share this episode with your friends or colleagues who might benefit.
Your support helps us bring more valuable content your way. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you feel more prepared and inspired to tell your story.
Thanks for listening. Remember, your story is unique. Embrace it and share it confidently. Until next time, stay curious, stay authentic, and keep the conversations going.
See you next time.